Welcome, history explorers. Imagine, for a moment, that you awaken not in your familiar bed, not in the comfort of modern life with its soft mattresses, heating, and quiet hum of electricity, but in a world that feels simultaneously foreign and alive. You open your eyes to a ceiling made of rough, uneven timbers, darkened by smoke and age, and for a moment you are disoriented. The first thing you notice is the faint, flickering light that filters through the cracks between the logs and beams, sunlight slipping past the edges of a small shuttered window. The air is heavy with the smell of smoke from a fire that struggles weakly in the hearth, mingled with the unmistakable scent of straw and clay. You hear the faint rustling of something moving, perhaps a rat, or maybe one of the animals that share this dwelling. The floor beneath you is uneven, covered with straw that has long absorbed the sense of years of daily life, both comforting and pungent. You rise, your bare feet sinking slightly into the hay, and you feel the chill that seems to cling to the wooden floorboards, seeping into your bones. Outside, the village is waking. A rooster crows in the distance, sharp and insistent, announcing the arrival of dawn. Chickens scatter in the mud outside, scratching desperately for whatever sustenance they might find in the soil, while a goat tugs at a bundle of weeds, its bell tinkling faintly. The earthy aroma of the animals blends with the smell of fresh bread baking in a communal oven, the aroma carrying through the crisp morning air and drawing you toward the life of the village. You step outside, and the transformation of the world around you becomes immediately apparent. Dirt roads stretch before you, uneven and rut-filled, etched with wheel marks from wooden carts and footprints from those who began their labor before the sun fully rose. Smoke curls from chimneys across the village, rising toward the sky in thin, twisting threads, marking the homes where families are already stirring. Villagers emerge from timber-framed houses with walls of wattle and daub, some plastered with clay to protect against rain, others left rough, revealing the skeletal wooden frames beneath. Thatched roofs, worn and sun-bleached, seem almost alive under the morning light, swaying slightly in the gentle breeze, their edges fraying like the pages of an old book. Children run barefoot through the village, their laughter a mixture of joy and mischief, and they dodge between adults carrying buckets of water from the communal well or bundles of firewood. The sound of the blacksmith hammering iron resonates through the village, each metallic clang sharp and rhythmic, echoing off wooden walls and stone foundations. You notice the Lord's Manor in the distance, elevated above the village on a small rise, its stone walls imposing and authoritative. This is not merely a home. It is a symbol of power, of protection, of hierarchy. The villagers live under its gaze, aware that every action, every failure, every success is subtly measured against the expectations of the Lord who rules over their land. As you wander further, every building tells a story. Most homes are small, often just a single room with a loft for sleeping. Smoke from a small hearth curls upward, leaving soot stains on the ceiling. Inside, simple furniture, a wooden table, stools, maybe a chestry, flex the practicality of village life. Windows are small, covered with oiled parchment or open to the elements, allowing light but little warmth. Outside each home, small gardens are carefully tended, filled with cabbages, onions, leeks, and herbs. Livestock, pigs, chickens, goat, roam nearby, providing sustenance and labor. Every object, every action is purposeful. There is no waste in this world. The villagers have learned, through necessity, to stretch their resources, to reuse, to repair, and to survive. Walking through the village, you begin to see the social fabric that binds these people together. There is a rhythm to their interactions, a choreography shaped by generations of tradition and labor. Greetings are exchanged, often with a nod or a quick word, acknowledging presence without wasting precious energy. Children are both helpers and learners, running errands, fetching water, and assisting with small tasks while absorbing lessons about survival, obedience, and community. Adults are constantly engaged, whether in the fields, the kitchens, the workshops, or at the blacksmith's forge. Every person has a role, and every role contributes to the functioning of the village as a whole. The pace of life is dictated not by clocks, but by the sun, by the seasons, and by the necessities of survival. Dawn marks the beginning of labor. The heat of midday is often spent resting briefly or tending animals that require constant attention. Evening brings light work, preparation of meals, mending of tools, or communal activities. Nightfall is not just a time of rest, but a time of heightened awareness, for dangers lurk in the dark. Wolves, thieves, or accidents in the fire. Lit homes are constant threats, and vigilance is a survival skill taught from an early age. You notice, too, the importance of the communal well, the central hearth, and the village green. These are not just locations, they are the heart of social life. The well is where gossip travels, where news of the outside world arrives, and where alliances and rivalries quietly form. The hearth is a place of warmth, of family gathering, of meals shared and stories told. The village green, often near the center of the settlement, is where festivals are held, where markets bring goods and travelers, and where villagers come together for work and celebration alike. These spaces define life, offering both structure and connection in a world that demands cooperation for survival. As you continue to observe, you begin to notice the subtle ways in which the villagers navigate authority and hierarchy. The Lord's manor is distant, yet ever present. Taxes, tithes, and obligations are part of life, shaping labor and social relations. A serf might wake before dawn to tend the Lord's land, knowing that their own small plot can only provide minimal sustenance. Yet within this system there is also protection. The Lord provides defense from external threats, mediation in disputes, and occasional assistance during times of famine or disease. Life is a negotiation between duty, survival, and social bonds. The sensory details of the village are overwhelming yet intimate. You smell the earthy aroma of freshly turned soil, the pungency of animals, the sweetness of early fruits and herbs, and the ever-present scent of smoke. You hear the chorus of morning activity, footsteps, clattering carts, children's laughter, roosters, dogs, and the constant rhythmic pounding of the blacksmith's hammer. You feel the uneven ground under your feet, the chill of morning dew, and the warmth of the weak sun beginning its climb. Every sense is engaged, every moment is immediate and tactile, and the world feels alive in a way modern life rarely allows. You realize that time here is measured differently. It is not the ticking of a clock, but the growth of crops, the flow of seasons, the cycles of labor and celebration that define the rhythm of life. Villagers rise and sleep according to nature, their lives intimately tied to the land and to each other. Education is informal but constant. Children learn by watching, imitating, and participating in daily tasks. Skills, knowledge, and traditions are passed down orally and through action, ensuring continuity across generations. By midday, the village is fully alive. Smoke rises from multiple hearths, and the clatter of tools echoes across the settlement. Villagers carry baskets of vegetables, firewood, and water. Livestock is herded to grazing areas, goats bleat insistently, and chickens scatter at every sudden movement. Children chase each other around wooden fences, while adults focus on the relentless tasks of survival, repairing fences, tending fires, spinning wool, or preparing food. There is no idle moment. Every action, no matter how small, contributes to life itself. You begin to see how interdependent the villagers are. Food must be shared, work divided, and knowledge exchanged. Illness, injury, or misfortune in one household affects the entire community. This is not merely a collection of families living side by side. It is a network of survival, social obligation, and mutual reliance. Cooperation is not a choice. It is necessity. As the sun rises higher, you realize that beauty exists even amid hardship. The colors of flowers in gardens, the sheen of a well-tended tool, the laughter of children, and the proud posture of a woman carrying a basket of bread all hint at a richness of life beyond mere survival. Even in a world constrained by labor, poverty, and social hierarchy, moments of joy, pride, and connection are abundant. By evening, the village shifts again. Shadows lengthen across the dirt paths. Fires in hearths glow warmly, illuminating faces lined with work and worry. Stories are told, songs sung, and lessons imparted to children before they fall asleep on straw-filled beds. The smell of cooked food fills the air, mingling with smoke and the fading warmth of the day. The village is quieting, yet alive with invisible threads of connection, the unseen work of people preparing for another day. In this moment, you understand that waking up in a medieval village is more than a relocation in time. It is an immersion into a world of rhythm, labor, connection, danger, and intimacy. Every sense is heightened, every action purposeful, every life intertwined. Here, the ordinary is extraordinary, and the act of simply existing is a constant negotiation with the land, the seasons, the Lord, and fellow humans. By nightfall, as darkness envelops the village and stars pierce the sky above, you feel a profound respect for the resilience, ingenuity, and humanity of these medieval villagers. Life is harsh, unpredictable, and demanding, yet it is also alive, immediate, and profoundly connected. To wake up in a medieval village is to experience history not as a story, but as a living, breathing reality, one that challenges, humbles, and fascinates in equal measure. Stepping further into the village, you begin to feel the rhythm of daily life, a rhythm that governs every waking hour and leaves little room for leisure or idleness. The morning sun has risen higher now, warming the earth slightly, but also illuminating the true extent of labor that defines this world. You notice that each villager moves with purpose, their motions honed through years of repetition, guided by necessity rather than choice. Every step, every swing of a tool, every chore is dictated by survival, and yet within this structured monotony, a subtle artistry emerges. The careful tending of the land, the crafting of objects, the preparation of meals, all carried out with precision and efficiency honed over generations. Men are already deep in the fields. Some plow the soil, guiding oxen yoked to wooden plows that cut through the earth, turning it over with an almost meditative rhythm. The sound of hooves clattering against the uneven dirt and the soft groan of the plowshare mixing with the soil fills the air, a constant reminder of the labor required to coax life from the land. Others sow seeds, their hands moving with practiced care, scattering grains in rows that must later be protected from birds, pests, and the vagaries of weather. Still others tend to livestock, herding sheep, feeding pigs, and milking goats. Each task is essential for the success of the harvest, the health of animals, and ultimately the survival of families depends on the attention given to these simple yet vital duties. Women are equally occupied, though their work takes place in a slightly different sphere, both indoors and outdoors. Some fetch water from the village well, hauling heavy buckets up narrow wooden steps and carrying them carefully back to their homes. Others tend to children, ensuring their safety while teaching them the necessary skills to survive in this harsh world. The spinning of wool into yarn occupies many, fingers moving deftly over the spindle, converting raw fibers into threads that will be woven into clothing or blankets. In the kitchens, women stir thick pottage over open flames, bake bread in communal ovens, or prepare vegetables and herbs harvested that very morning. Every motion is measured, efficient, necessary, and a testament to human endurance and ingenuity. Meals themselves are modest yet sustaining. A simple breakfast might consist of bread, perhaps accompanied by cheese or milk, occasionally enhanced by a small portion of meat if circumstances allow. Pottage, a thick, grain-based stew, is a staple, often flavored with herbs from the garden or vegetables gleaned from nearby fields. Food is consumed quickly, eaten to fuel labor rather than for leisure or enjoyment. The quality and quantity of what is available can vary dramatically with the seasons. A poor harvest can mean hunger for weeks, and every meal carries with it the unspoken anxiety of uncertainty. Despite the physical demands of life, social interaction is embedded in the daily work. Villagers exchange greetings, offer advice, or share a brief joke as they toil. Children run errands for adults, carrying small bundles of firewood or fetching water, learning by doing. Knowledge and skill are transmitted organically. Watching, imitating, and participating in the chores of the day serves as an education that is both practical and vital. Older villagers impart wisdom, cautioning the young about the dangers of animals, tools, or the natural environment. In this way, the village operates as a living classroom, where survival knowledge is passed down without formal schooling, where the landscape itself is both teacher and test. The work is relentless. From dawn to dusk, labor dominates life, yet there is rhythm and structure in this monotony. The day begins with the soft light of dawn, the time when the air is cool and the earth is damp, making fieldwork slightly easier. Mid-morning brings a brief pause, sometimes just a moment to rest, tend to the hearth, or check on animals. Midday is marked by the sun at its highest point, often prompting a short break to consume the small midday meal, and then labor resumes with renewed intensity. By late afternoon and evening, tasks shift toward preparation for the night, gathering firewood, feeding animals for the evening, mending tools, and storing food for the following day. Sleep comes early, as darkness descends quickly without artificial light, and the body demands rest after the unceasing work. Yet amid this labor, moments of ingenuity and creativity emerge. Villagers employ tools and techniques honed over generations. Plows are repaired carefully, with wooden frames bound by iron reinforcements. Looms and spinning wheels are maintained and adjusted for optimal efficiency. Kitchens and ovens are designed for maximum heat retention and minimal fuel use. Every object, every tool, every process has been refined through trial, error, and necessity. Even the act of storing food is deliberate. Fruit vegetables are placed in cool, dry cellars. Grains are stored in woven sacks, raised from the ground to prevent dampness or rodent infestation. In this world, foresight and skill are as essential as physical strength, and the villagers' knowledge of their environment is profound. Social interaction is not limited to cooperative labor, but extends to shared responsibilities and celebrations. Harvest time, for example, transforms the village rhythm dramatically. Families come together to gather crops, thresh grain, and preserve food for the long months ahead. Work is harder during these periods, but there is also a communal spirit. Neighbors assist each other, children play nearby while adults labor, and stories and laughter accompany even the most exhausting tasks. Festivals and religious observances punctuate the year, providing respite from the daily grind. Saints' days, for instance, are celebrated with small feasts, games, music, and sometimes dancing, offering brief but important relief from the constant demands of survival. The division of labor in the village is also deeply tied to gender, age, and social status. Men often perform the heaviest physical labor, plowing, logging, or tending large livestock, while women balance childcare, household chores, and supplemental agricultural tasks. Children gradually assume responsibilities appropriate to their age, learning through imitation and instruction, while the elderly may continue contributing in ways suited to their abilities, passing knowledge and oversight to younger generations. Even within these constraints, there is adaptability. Tasks shift according to need, weather, and circumstance, ensuring that the community functions as a cohesive unit. The daily lives of villagers are also dictated by cycles that are entirely natural. Seasons determine work schedules, crop rotation, planting, and harvest times. Rainfall or drought can disrupt plans, forcing villagers to adapt quickly. Winters are particularly harsh, with shorter daylight hours, frozen ground, and limited food stores. Villagers prepare for these months meticulously, preserving food, reinforcing homes, and stockpiling firewood. Their survival is a constant negotiation with the environment, and each day carries the unspoken tension of potential disaster. Within the village, the reliance on shared labor and communal support is paramount. While each household has its own responsibilities, they also participate in collective work, repairing roads, constructing buildings, maintaining fences, and helping neighbors in times of need. Mutual aid is not only practical but necessary. The failure of one family can have repercussions for others. This interdependence fosters social cohesion and a sense of belonging, yet it also creates pressures to conform, to contribute, and to fulfill one's duties. Laziness or negligence is rarely tolerated, for survival depends on each person performing their role faithfully. Religious life further intertwines with daily labor. Villagers observe prayer times, attend services at the small chapel, and align their work schedules around holy days and festivals. Religious instruction is embedded in their labor. Planting, harvesting, and even spinning wool are accompanied by prayers or rituals seeking divine favor for success. The church, often at the village heart, serves as a spiritual center but also a social hub where news is shared, disputes mediated, and celebrations organized. Faith provides structure, comfort, and a framework for understanding the hardships and unpredictability of life. The sensory world of daily labor is overwhelming yet vivid. You feel the sun on your back as you plow a furrow, the sweat running down your face, the strain in your muscles, the scrape of rough wooden handles against your palms. You hear the rhythmic pounding of the blacksmith, the bleating of goats, the clucking of chickens, and the occasional shout of a villager calling instructions or encouragement. The smell of baked bread, fresh earth, smoke, and animals pervades everything, and the texture of the soil, straw, and tools under your hands and feet keeps you intimately connected to the world around you. Life is raw, immediate, and tactile in ways modern existence rarely allows. Even moments of rest are functional. Sitting in the shade to catch your breath or leaning against a wall to mend a tool is both restorative and productive. Observation of nature is constant. Recognizing patterns in weather, plant growth, or animal behavior is essential for survival. Villagers live in a continuous state of attentiveness, learning from each day, anticipating challenges, and applying knowledge gained through experience. Through all this, you begin to understand the unspoken rhythm of the village. Dawn brings labor, mid-morning is sustained effort, mid-day offers brief sustenance, afternoon is for continued toil and preparation, and evening is a winding down that blends family, food, and reflection. Every moment, no matter how small, has purpose. Every action connects to another, creating a complex web of survival, skill, and social cohesion. In witnessing this, you gain insight into the profound discipline, resilience, and ingenuity required to thrive in such a world. Labor is not merely work, it is life itself, a continuous, adaptive, communal act. The villager's ability to meet the demands of this existence is a testament to human endurance, cooperation, and creativity, qualities that remain timeless and universal. By nightfall, as the last tasks are completed and the village settles into quiet anticipation of sleep, you feel a deep appreciation for the structured intensity of daily life. Each chore, each movement, each interaction contributes to survival, to continuity, to the weaving of a social fabric that binds the community together. You begin to understand that in a medieval village, labor is not simply a means to an end. It is the very essence of life, the thread that connects every individual, every household, and every season into a living, breathing organism sustained by diligence, cooperation, and resilience. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, you begin to notice that life in the medieval village, for all its rhythms and routines, is never truly predictable. Every day brings challenges, some subtle and slow, moving, others sudden and harsh. The idyllic scenes of children playing barefoot, goats grazing in gardens, and villagers exchanging greetings mask the constant pressures that weigh on everyone. Life is fragile here, and survival is never guaranteed. Even a minor misstep can ripple outward, affecting not only one individual, but the entire community. Disease is a constant, invisible threat. You notice a woman in the village carrying a child with flushed cheeks and a heavy cough. Illnesses such as smallpox, dysentery, and typhoid fever can spread with terrifying speed. Medical knowledge is rudimentary. Healing often relies on a combination of herbal remedies, prayers, and, at times, superstition. Midwives, herbalists, and local healers are respected figures, yet their treatments are far from reliable and outcomes are uncertain. A fever that today seems minor could, in a matter of days, weaken the body beyond recovery. Villagers live with a perpetual awareness of mortality, shaping behavior, social interactions, and even the tasks they undertake each day. In addition to disease, accidents are an ever-present concern. A plow can tip unexpectedly, a heavy load can fall, a knife can slip while preparing food, and even tending livestock carries risks. The strength and endurance required for daily labor are immense, yet physical resilience alone is insufficient. Knowledge, caution, and experience are essential tools for survival. Children learn early to recognize danger, whether it is the unpredictable behavior of animals, the instability of a rooftop ladder, or the treacherous terrain of a muddy field. Every action carries consequences, and the margin for error is slim. Weather dominates life as both ally and adversary. Floods can wash away fields, destroying months of labor in hours. Droughts can wither crops, forcing villagers to ration food carefully or risk starvation. Winters are brutal. Snow and ice make roads impassable. The ground freezes solid, and fires are essential for survival, consuming large quantities of precious wood. Storms can collapse roofs, damage fences, and sweep away livestock. Villagers constantly interpret signs in the sky, the wind, the behavior of animals, and the growth of plants, attempting to anticipate challenges that could dramatically affect their lives. In this environment, adaptability is not optional, it is essential. Famine is a recurring specter in the village. When harvests fail, whether due to weather, pests, or disease in crops, the entire community suffers. Hunger changes behavior, forcing villagers to prioritize survival over everything else. Food becomes scarce, families rely on what little they have stored, and the village as a whole must cooperate to distribute resources. In such times, social bonds are both tested and reinforced. Those who hoard or neglect communal responsibility risk the scorn of neighbors, while those who share what little they have earn respect and trust. The rhythm of labor is interrupted by the urgent need to secure sustenance, and every decision becomes a negotiation between necessity and morality. The social hierarchy adds another layer of complexity to village life. Most villagers are serfs, bound to the land and obligated to the lord who owns it. They owe labor, produce, or both, often leaving little time or energy for their own plots. This dependence creates tension. The lord provides protection, but also demands obedience and taxes, sometimes in forms that are harsh and inflexible. A serf's life is a careful balance between fulfilling obligations to survive and preserving personal resources to sustain their family. The manor looms over the village as a symbol of authority and control, reminding villagers that their fate is not entirely in their own hands. Threats from the outside world are ever present, even if rare. Raiders, bandits, and hostile neighboring lords can strike without warning, stealing resources, damaging property, or causing injury. Villagers maintain vigilance not just out of fear, but as a practical necessity. Some families may construct rudimentary fortifications, sharpen tools into weapons, or keep watch during the night. Even the simplest of homes can feel vulnerable in a world where law enforcement is limited and protection is contingent on alliances, loyalty, and sometimes sheer luck. Illness, labor, and external threats combine to create a life of constant alertness. Each day begins with awareness of what must be done and what dangers may lie ahead. Villagers develop resilience, both physical and psychological, as a response to these pressures. Endurance, patience, and an intimate understanding of their environment are vital. They observe minute details in crops, animal behavior, and weather patterns, using this knowledge to anticipate challenges and mitigate risks. Knowledge is survival, ignorance is peril. Children grow up in this environment, learning early the harsh realities of existence. They are trained not only in skills, but in caution and responsibility. A child fetching water must navigate slippery roads, carry a heavy bucket, and be mindful of livestock or adults in motion. They are taught to recognize threats, to act quickly, and to understand the consequences of negligence. Play is often interwoven with labor as children mimic adults, developing dexterity, judgment, and stamina. Education is practical, focused on the knowledge and abilities required to endure and thrive in a demanding environment. Even daily chores carry an element of risk. A farmer wielding a scythe must account for the sharp blade, the uneven terrain, and the unpredictable behavior of animals nearby. A woman grinding grain at the mill must maintain focus and control to prevent injury, while also monitoring the children and household tasks simultaneously. Simple tasks like carrying water or fire would require balance, strength, and attentiveness. Every act of labor is both a necessity and a test of skill and endurance. Yet, in the midst of these hardships, human ingenuity and resilience shine. Villagers have developed systems for storing food, preserving water, and constructing shelters that can withstand wind, rain, and cold. Tools are repaired, woven baskets mended, plows reinforced, and livestock carefully managed. Even in scarcity, they find ways to stretch resources, utilizing every scrap of food, wood, and fiber to maximum effect. Survival is both science and art, a continuous process of observation, adaptation, and practical problem solving. Social bonds are critical to coping with challenges. When illness strikes a family, neighbors provide assistance. When a roof collapses or a fence is damaged, communal labor helps rebuild what one household cannot repair alone. Festivals, religious observances, and collective labor activities reinforce these ties, creating a network of interdependence that ensures that even in adversity, the community endures. Survival is not a solitary endeavor, it is a shared enterprise bound together by necessity, tradition, and mutual care. Superstition and religious belief also shape responses to hardship. Villagers often interpret misfortune as the result of divine displeasure, curses, or supernatural influence. Remedies may include prayers, charms, or rituals designed to avert evil or attract good fortune. These practices are as much about psychological comfort as practical effect, offering a framework to make sense of events beyond their control. Faith and superstition coexist with practical knowledge, creating a rich tapestry of coping mechanisms that help villagers navigate a world filled with uncertainty. The threat of famine, disease, and external violence is a constant reminder of human vulnerability. Yet within these constraints, moments of triumph, resilience, and ingenuity emerge. A well-preserved harvest, a successful childbirth, the repair of a damaged roof, all are victories celebrated quietly or openly within the community. These small achievements provide hope and sustain morale, reinforcing the notion that effort, skill, and cooperation can overcome even the harshest conditions. Even the village spatial organization reflects adaptation to these challenges. Homes are clustered for protection and social cohesion. Fields are rotated and shared, maximizing yield while reducing risk. The central hearth, communal ovens, and village well provide resources that no single household could sustain alone. Paths and roads are maintained to allow for movement of people and goods, while watchfulness and collective defense help mitigate threats from both nature and humans. Every aspect of village life is shaped by the need to endure, to cooperate, and to make the most of limited resources. At the same time, villagers maintain awareness of the broader political and social context. Lords, taxes, and regional conflicts influence decisions daily. A village cannot be fully insulated from the power structures above it, and compliance, negotiation, and sometimes subversion are necessary skills. Understanding hierarchy, obligations, and alliances is as important as tending crops or livestock. Survival depends not only on physical skill, but on social intelligence and political awareness. Even in moments of relative calm, anxiety underlies the rhythm of life. Illness, storms, poor harvests, or conflicts can strike at any moment. Villagers live with this uncertainty constantly in mind, shaping their choices, work patterns, and social interactions. Planning, foresight, and adaptability are not optional. They are essential to enduring the vagaries of the medieval world. By late afternoon, as labor begins to wind down, the toll of daily hardship is visible. Bodies are tired, muscles sore, hands calloused and scarred. Yet the villagers continue, driven by necessity, habit, and the knowledge that survival is a continuous effort. The evening is often a time of communal work, food preparation, and small tasks that must be completed before darkness. Firewood is gathered, animals fed and secured, and food for the next day prepared and stored. The day ends not with relaxation, but with preparation for tomorrow's challenges. Through all of this, one begins to appreciate the immense resilience of medieval villagers. Life is unrelenting, yet humans adapt, innovate, and cooperate. Skills are honed, knowledge accumulated, and social bonds reinforced. Hardship is constant, yet survival is possible through diligence, wisdom, and communal effort. The villager's existence is a testament to endurance, practical intelligence, and the capacity of humans to persist under conditions that modern life scarcely imagines. Nightfall brings a brief respite. The village settles into quiet activity. Fires in hearths glow warmly, providing both heat and a gathering place for families. Stories are told, wisdom is passed down, and children learn through observation even as they fall asleep on straw-filled beds. Yet even in rest, awareness of potential danger persists. A wolf howls in the distance, the wind moans through trees, and the creaking of timbers reminds the villagers of the fragility of their world. Sleep is necessary, but vigilance is ingrained. In witnessing this, you realize that the daily hardships and challenges of medieval village life are inseparable from the rhythm, structure, and social cohesion that sustain it. Survival is not passive. It is a continuous negotiation with nature, with fellow humans, and with forces beyond comprehension. Every day is a delicate balance between danger and effort, scarcity and ingenuity, fatigue and resilience. The villagers endure not because life is easy, but because they have no alternative, and through endurance, they find meaning, purpose, and connection in a world that is at once harsh and beautiful. As you continue to move through the village, you begin to notice that life here is as much about what you see, hear, and smell as it is about labor and survival. The village is alive in a way that modern settlements rarely are, a constantly shifting tableau of movement, sound, and scent. Every sense is engaged and every detail carries meaning, both practical and emotional. You realize that to truly understand the life of a medieval village, you must immerse yourself in this sensory world where every moment is immediate and every sense is both tool and guide. The first thing that strikes you is the soundscape of the village. From dawn onward, the air is filled with a chorus of noise, each sound layered upon another, creating a living symphony of daily life. Roosters crow insistently, their sharp calls echoing across the dirt roads and fields, marking the beginning of the day. Chickens scratch in the mud, their claws tearing through earth and straw, producing a rhythmic clatter that is punctuated by occasional squawks. Dogs bark in the distance, warning of intruders, herding animals, or simply asserting their presence. The lowing of cows, the bleating of goats, and the grunting of pigs add depth to this auditory environment, reminding you constantly that life is shared with both humans and animals. The human voices in the village form another layer of sound. Children run barefoot through the streets, their laughter and shouts mingling with the calls of adults. Women carry water from the well, their feet splashing through puddles as they balance heavy buckets, calling greetings to neighbors along the way. Men in the fields shout instructions to one another, their voices carrying across the open space as they guide oxen, coordinate plowing, or organize harvests. Even arguments are common, brief, and sharp, often about labor, livestock, or minor grievances, yet they are always tempered by proximity and the understanding that cooperation is essential. From the center of the village, the blacksmith's hammer rings out with a precise, metallic rhythm, punctuated by the occasional hiss of molten metal hitting water or the clang of tools striking anvils. The sound travels across rooftops and open squares, a signal of skill, labor, and the essential work of maintaining tools, weapons, and implements necessary for survival. The blacksmith's forge is the heart of technological life in the village, and the echoes of his hammering mark both continuity and resilience in a world defined by labor. Amid these sounds, quieter, subtler noises also capture your attention. The wind rustles through trees, moving leaves and branches in gentle, constant motion. Water trickles from fountains, wells, or small streams, adding a soothing undertone to the village symphony. The crunch of straw underfoot, the scraping of wooden carts along dirt roads, and the soft rustle of cloth as villagers move about their work all contribute to a layered, textured auditory experience. Every sound carries information, a warning, an announcement, a signal of routine or disruption. The villagers themselves rely on these sounds as cues, their lives synchronized with the auditory rhythms of the village. The visual world is equally compelling. Houses are timber, framed, often plastered with clay, and topped with thatched roofs that glint gold in the morning sun. The wood is worn by years of use, beams darkened by smoke and exposure, yet it retains the strength necessary to shelter generations. Windows are small, often filled with oiled parchment instead of glass, letting in filtered light and giving the interiors a warm, diffuse glow. Smoke rises from chimneys and hearths, curling into the sky and marking the presence of life, warmth, and preparation. Gardens spill over with vegetables, herbs, and flowers, their colors bright against the earthy tones of walls and streets. Livestock grazes or rests nearby, adding movement, texture, and a living element to every view. The village green is a central point of activity, a gathering place where the senses converge. Children play, adults converse, and communal labor projects are organized. Here, sight is not merely aesthetic but functional. The positioning of animals, the state of tools, the quality of crops, and the behaviors of neighbors are all observed and interpreted. The eyes of villagers are trained to notice the subtle signs of health, threat, or opportunity. Every detail matters, and nothing is irrelevant. Smell permeates the village in ways that can be both pleasant and overwhelming. The aroma of baking bread drifts from communal ovens, a warm, yeasty fragrance that speaks of sustenance and skill. Smoke from fires adds a sharp, acrid edge, mingling with the earthy scent of damp soil, manure, and livestock. Herbs drying in windows release their fragrances, subtle and calming, while flowers and vegetation contribute hints of sweetness. Occasionally, unpleasant odors intrude, the tang of rotting waste, the sharpness of raw meat, or the pungency of unclean animals. But villagers are acclimated to these smells, and they are as much a part of the village life as laughter or labor. The textures of the village also communicate meaning. Rough wooden beams, worn and splintered, provide tactile clues about age and durability. Straw-strewn floors offer softness underfoot, but hide hidden hazards. Mud and earth cling to boots and skin, connecting villagers directly to the land they cultivate. The rough surface of a plow handle, the smooth curve of a stone wheel, the sharp edge of a knife, each object is felt, understood, and used with expertise born of constant interaction. The hands of villagers are toughened and calloused, bodies lean and strong, eyes sharp and attentive, all honed by necessity. Sight, sound, and smell combine to create a living portrait of medieval life, one that is immediate, tangible, and all-encompassing. Every element of the environment communicates information. The behavior of animals can indicate weather or predators. The smoke from a chimney might signal distress or celebration. The movement of people across streets and fields conveys both routine and urgency. In this world, perception is survival. Ignoring a single detail could lead to injury, loss, or hunger. The sensory environment is further enriched by seasonal changes. In spring, the village bursts into color and sound. Flowers bloom, streams run full, and the air carries the mixed fragrances of new growth and wet earth. Summer brings warmth, activity, and the buzz of insects as crops grow and animals are more active. Autumn is marked by the smell of harvested grain, the earthy scent of fallen leaves, and the preparation of food stores for winter. Winter, harsh and biting, transforms the village into a quieter, more introspective space. Smoke rises thicker from hearths, animals huddle for warmth, and every sound seems sharper against the still, cold air. Each season reshapes the sensory world, providing both challenges and beauty. Even routine labor is colored by sensory detail. Plowing fields is a tactile, auditory, and visual experience. The soil resists and gives way under the plow, the oxen strain against their yokes, and the sun casts shadows that mark the passing hours. Water drawing is accompanied by the splash and weight of buckets, the smell of wet stone and algae, and the sound of liquid sloshing. Food preparation engages smell, touch, and sight simultaneously. Kneading dough, stirring pottage, chopping vegetables, all require attention, skill, and awareness of subtle changes. The villagers themselves contribute to the sensory environment. Their voices convey mood, intent, and status. Clothing, often made of rough wool or linen, rustles and shifts with movement, signaling occupation, weather, and social role. The physicality of their labor, muscle tension, sweat, posture, communicates effort and endurance. Children's laughter, adults' conversations, and elders' advice are all integral to the village sensory tapestry, creating a rhythm that is both functional and immersive. Religious and cultural observances further enrich the village sensory world. Bells ringing from the chapel punctuate the day, calling villagers to prayer, signaling events, or marking moments of significance. Songs, chants, and hymns carry across streets and fields, adding melody to the soundscape. Festivals introduce color, sound, and smell in heightened forms. Banners flutter, fires burn, music plays, food aromas intensify, and communal energy reaches a peak. These moments punctuate the daily routine, offering both respite and celebration, and they reinforce the sensory patterns that define village life. Even dangers are perceptible through the senses. The sound of rustling in fields may indicate predators or intruders. The smell of spoiled food or stagnant water signals a threat to health. Sudden silence in a previously noisy environment can indicate danger or misfortune. Villagers are constantly interpreting these cues, their survival dependent on acute awareness and responsiveness. Sensory engagement is not optional, it is essential. Through all of this, you begin to understand that the medieval village is a world where senses are alive, trained, and continuously engaged. Seeing, hearing, smelling, and feeling are inseparable from thought, action, and decision-making. The environment is not a passive backdrop, but an active participant in life. Survival, community, labor, and celebration are all mediated through the senses, creating a rich, complex, and immersive reality that is profoundly different from the sanitized experience of modern life. At night, the sensory world changes dramatically. Darkness softens visual cues but sharpens others. The crackle of firewood in hearths, the distant howl of wolves, the creak of timbered roofs settling. Smells of cooking, smoke, and livestock linger more intensely in still air. Sounds carry differently, echoing across streets and through empty fields, and every movement is amplified. Sleep comes with vigilance. Even in rest, the villagers remain attuned to their environment, responsive to the sensory signals that might indicate danger or need. In this continuous engagement with sight, sound, and smell, the medieval village emerges not merely as a place, but as an immersive experience. Life is immediate, intense, and inseparable from the physical and sensory world. Every day is a lesson in perception, attention, and adaptation, and every moment carries the weight of survival, cooperation, and tradition. You come to realize that to wake up in such a village is to be enveloped not only in history, but in a fully lived, deeply felt reality, one where the senses are the constant guides and the environment itself is a teacher. As you move deeper into the heart of the medieval village, you begin to notice that daily life is shaped not only by labor, survival, and sensory awareness, but by faith, ritual, and the pervasive influence of belief. Religion in this world is far more than a personal or private matter. It is woven into every aspect of existence, defining social structure, moral codes, and even the rhythms of daily work. The church is not merely a building, but a central pillar around which village life revolves. Its presence is unmistakable, a modest stone or timber structure often at the center of the settlement, with a simple bell tower rising above the rooftops, signaling the passage of hours, the arrival of events, and the marking of holy days. The sound of the church bell punctuates the day, ringing at dawn, noon, and evening. Its toll is a call to prayer, a signal to pause work, a reminder that time is both earthly and spiritual. The villagers respond almost instinctively, crossing themselves, bowing their heads, or muttering short prayers as they continue their labor. The bell is also a marker of occasion, a wedding, a funeral, a mass, or a festival. Its resonance travels across fields and streets, its sound carrying both warning and reassurance. Listening to it, you realize that the villager's sense of time is deeply intertwined with religious observance, more so than the rising and setting of the sun or the passing of the seasons. Faith shapes behavior in subtle and overt ways. Villagers follow moral codes derived from religious teachings, often observing rules that govern conduct, interactions, and work. Charity, honesty, humility, and obedience are valued, not only as ethical principles, but as practical measures for maintaining social cohesion. Breaking these codes may invite disapproval, gossip, or even formal censure from religious authorities. Conversely, acts of piety, generosity, and diligence reinforce status and reputation within the community. Faith thus becomes a framework through which the villagers interpret both fortune and misfortune, guiding decisions large and small. Superstition operates alongside religion, blending practical knowledge with the mystical. Villagers are acutely aware of the unseen forces that may influence life, good and evil spirits, omens, curses, or blessings. A strange sound in the night, a sudden illness, a crop that wilts unexpectedly, each event may be interpreted through a spiritual or superstitious lens. Remedies are applied with care, prayers, charms, or rituals designed to avert misfortune or attract divine favor. Herbs are burned or sprinkled, symbols drawn on doorposts, and gestures repeated with meticulous attention. Even the most pragmatic villager cannot escape the pull of superstition, for it offers a framework for understanding the unpredictable and uncontrollable aspects of life. Rituals mark the passage of time and stages of life. Baptisms are celebrated with quiet ceremony, welcoming infants into both the spiritual and social community. Weddings are communal events, blending festivity, duty, and religious obligation. Funerals are somber, yet socially unifying, reminding villagers of mortality while reinforcing bonds between families. Religious festivals and holy days punctuate the calendar, offering respite from labor, opportunities for communal gathering, and moments of spiritual reflection. Each ritual is rich in sensory detail, the aroma of incense, the sound of hymns, the sight of candles flickering in the dim light, the tactile act of crossing oneself or kneeling in prayer. These experiences are immersive, affecting mind, body, and spirit. Even labor is infused with faith. Fields are blessed at planting and harvest, livestock receives prayers for protection, and meals are preceded by grace. These rituals reinforce the notion that work and survival are not purely human endeavors, but are guided by divine influence. The villagers' understanding of causality blends the tangible and intangible. Careful attention, skill, and effort are essential, but divine favor can tip the balance between success and failure. Faith, in this sense, becomes both a source of comfort and a practical tool for coping with the uncertainties of life. Education and knowledge are also intertwined with religious life. Literacy is limited in the village, but the oral transmission of religious stories, saints' lives, and moral parables is constant. These stories are more than entertainment. They teach values, warn against misdeeds, and provide examples of courage, piety, and endurance. Children grow up absorbing these narratives, internalizing lessons that guide behavior, strengthen social bonds, and foster a sense of identity and purpose. Villagers interpret natural events, accidents, and hardships through the lens of these stories, seeing divine justice, guidance, or tests in the unfolding of daily life. The presence of clergy, often the only educated members of the village, reinforces religious influence. Priests, monks, or nuns visit homes, officiate ceremonies, and provide guidance. They are both spiritual leaders and social mediators, resolving disputes, advising on moral dilemmas, and offering instruction on both religious and practical matters. Their authority is acknowledged because it is rooted in both faith and knowledge, creating a hierarchy that villagers respect and rely upon. Even the simplest advice, a recommendation for planting a field, raising livestock, or preparing food, is often framed in moral or spiritual terms, reflecting the inseparability of the sacred and the mundane. Superstition manifests in everyday behavior in ways that may seem curious or excessive to modern eyes. Villagers avoid certain actions on particular days, believing they may invite misfortune. Numbers, animals, or natural signs are interpreted as omens. For instance, the sudden appearance of a black cat, a broken tool, or a stranger arriving at the wrong hour might be cause for ritual response. Amulets, charms, and prayers are common, often hung above doorways or worn on the body, intended to ward off evil or attract good fortune. These practices are not irrational. They are a form of cultural wisdom, a method of psychological reassurance in a world where control over events is limited. Pilgrimages, though less frequent in a small village, form part of the broader spiritual landscape. Some villagers travel to distant shrines or holy sites, seeking healing, blessing, or the fulfillment of a vow. These journeys are arduous and sometimes dangerous, yet they are undertaken with devotion, reflecting the depth of belief and the willingness to endure hardship for spiritual reward. Stories of such pilgrimages circulate in the village, inspiring others and reinforcing collective values of courage, piety, and perseverance. Fear and reverence are closely linked in the spiritual life of the village. Villagers are acutely aware of sin, divine judgment, and the moral order imposed by faith. Confession, penance, and participation in sacraments are not merely ritualistic. They are essential acts to maintain spiritual and social equilibrium. Supernatural explanations for misfortune coexist with practical remedies, creating a dual approach to survival that blends reason, faith, and precaution. This layered world allows villagers to navigate uncertainty with both action and reflection, skill and devotion. Religious festivals, which often involve music, dance, and communal feasting, transform the village sensory environment dramatically. The air fills with the scent of cooking fires, baked goods, roasted meats, and freshly cut herbs. Bells and drums, voices raised in song, and the rhythmic clatter of dancing feet dominate the soundscape. Visual spectacle is abundant. Banners flutter, faces painted with celebratory color, and ritual objects shine in sunlight or firelight. Even animals may participate or be decorated, reflecting the integration of all life into these communal spiritual practices. Festivals provide both respite from labor and reinforcement of social and spiritual bonds, grounding villagers in shared experience and collective memory. You begin to notice that superstition and faith often intersect with natural observation. Signs in the sky, changes in weather, or unusual animal behavior are interpreted spiritually, yet these observations also contain practical knowledge. A dark cloud signaling rain may be prayed over, yet it also informs farmers about when to plant or harvest. An illness may be seen as a trial, yet the application of herbs, careful hygiene, and attention to diet are also critical responses. The villager's world, you blends observation, experience, and belief, creating a sophisticated, adaptive approach to uncertainty that is as psychological as it is practical. The sensory elements of religion, sight, sound, smell, and touch, permeate life. Candles flicker in dim chapels, incense smoke curls and drifts, the aroma of baked bread for offerings mixes with the scent of livestock and earth, and the echo of prayers and chants fills streets and fields. Tactile rituals, such as crossing oneself, kneeling, or touching holy objects, reinforce both physical and spiritual awareness. These sensory experiences are immersive, grounding belief in the body as well as the mind, connecting villagers to their environment, each other, and the divine. Even hardship is interpreted through faith. Famine, disease, or natural disaster may be viewed as a test of character, a trial sent by divine will, or a consequence of communal or individual sin. This interpretation provides structure, meaning, and a framework for action. Prayers, offerings, penance, or cooperation are undertaken with the hope of appeasing divine forces and restoring balance. Faith is therefore both explanatory and motivational, offering purpose in a world where misfortune is constant and uncontrollable. In this environment, the interplay of religion and superstition shapes identity, behavior, and community cohesion. Villagers internalize the moral codes, rituals, and stories that define their society, learning to navigate a world where spiritual, practical, and social concerns are inseparable. Children grow up immersed in this world, absorbing lessons, fears, and aspirations that guide them throughout life. Adults maintain and enforce these traditions, and the community collectively interprets experience through the lens of belief. Even the smallest acts are infused with spiritual significance. Planting a seed may involve a prayer for growth. Mending a tool may be accompanied by a gesture of thanks for provision. Lighting a fire, drawing water, or preparing food is often ritualized, combining necessity with devotion. In this way, religion and superstition saturate life, creating a tapestry in which faith, survival, and community are inseparable. By nightfall, the village becomes quieter, yet the influence of belief remains pervasive. Candles glow in homes and chapels, prayers are whispered, and rituals for protection and blessing are observed. Even in darkness, sensory awareness is heightened. The smell of smoke, the sound of animals settling, the distant toll of a bell, all reinforce the presence of the spiritual and the practical. Sleep is not merely rest, but a continuation of vigilance, faith, and reflection, preparing villagers for the challenges and labors of the following day. Through this immersion, you begin to understand that religion and superstition are not merely add-ons to medieval life. They are central, structuring experience, guiding action, and providing meaning. Faith informs work, social interaction, risk management, and moral reasoning. Superstition complements this faith, offering psychological and practical strategies for navigating uncertainty. Together, they create a worldview that sustains life, binds the community, and transforms hardship into a context for learning, resilience, and collective identity. In witnessing this integration of belief into daily existence, you gain a deeper appreciation for the villager's resilience, creativity, and adaptability, Their lives are informed by a sophisticated blend of faith, observation, ritual, and social cooperation, each element reinforcing the others. To live in a medieval village is to inhabit a world where the spiritual, the practical, and the social are inseparable, where every action carries significance, and where survival depends not only on skill and labor, but on belief, ritual, and the interpretive power of the human mind. As the seasons turn and years pass, the village exists not only in the present, but as a living memory, an accumulation of effort, survival, and human experience. Every stone, every beam, every footpath carries traces of the countless lives that have passed through this place. When you stand quietly in the village square at dawn, you feel the weight of generations pressing subtly into the present. The houses, plowed fields, and well-trodden roads are not mere physical structures. They are monuments to the resilience, ingenuity, and endurance of those who have lived here. Each laborer, each child, each elder has contributed to a legacy that is woven into the very fabric of the village. This legacy is evident in the continuity of labor and skill. The techniques used to plow the fields, harvest grain, spin wool, and bake bread are handed down, refined through trial and error, and preserved through oral tradition. Each generation learns from the one before it, observing, imitating, and eventually mastering the practices necessary for survival. Tools are repaired and reused. Knowledge is transmitted in gestures, words, and routines, and the rhythm of daily life is maintained across decades. There is a sense of permanence in this continuity, yet it is fragile, dependent on the health, cooperation, and commitment of every member of the community. Reflection is a natural companion to legacy. Villagers pause at intervals to consider the fruits of their labor, the state of their households, and the welfare of the community. A successful harvest, a healthy child, or a repaired roof becomes not only a practical achievement, but a moment of quiet triumph, a validation of effort, skill, and foresight. Yet reflection is rarely indulgent. In a world where labor is relentless and resources scarce, moments of contemplation are intertwined with the constant demands of survival. Every pause carries with it the weight of responsibility to maintain property, provide for family, and ensure the stability of the village. The price of life in this world is steep. Labor consumes the body and mind. Hands are calloused and scarred, muscles constantly strained, and backs bent under repetitive work. Fatigue is a constant companion, yet it is rarely indulgent or leisurely. Illness, injury, and exhaustion loom as ever-present threats. Even the young are not spared. Children contribute to labor from an early age, balancing education, chores, and observation. Play is often functional, an extension of learning, skill development, and socialization. Adulthood is marked by endurance and adaptability, the body and mind molded by necessity rather than choice. Hardship leaves its imprint not only on the body but on social relations. Families rely on each other, neighbors cooperate, and the community functions as a tightly woven network of mutual dependence. Yet tension is inevitable. Scarcity, illness, disputes over land or resources, and the unpredictable forces of nature create friction. Gossip, envy, and rivalry may flare, reminding villagers that the bonds of survival are delicate. Even as cooperation sustains life, social interactions are complex, requiring judgment, diplomacy, and adaptability. Those who fail to navigate these relationships may find themselves marginalized or vulnerable. Despite these pressures, there is profound resilience. Villagers develop strategies for endurance and continuity. Labor is divided efficiently, resources are carefully conserved, and knowledge is transmitted with care. Festivals, religious observances, and communal activities punctuate hardship, offering moments of respite, celebration, and reinforcement of shared identity. Skills are honed and preserved, from plowing to weaving to animal husbandry, creating a repository of practical intelligence that sustains the community over generations. The price of survival is steep, yet it is met with ingenuity, cooperation, and endurance. The legacy is also expressed through the tangible results of labor. Stone walls, wooden fences, and carefully tilled fields are markers of human effort, shaping both the physical and social landscape. Gardens flourish, livestock thrives, and homes stand as testimony to skill and care. Even objects of everyday use, spindles, looms, plows, and cooking vessels, carry the imprint of generations, reflecting both utility and cultural continuity. In this way, the villagers' efforts extend beyond immediate survival, creating a material and symbolic inheritance for those who follow. Reflection also encompasses the moral and spiritual dimensions of village life. Daily labor, social interaction, and participation in rituals are not merely practical acts. They carry ethical significance. Villagers learn to act with integrity, to care for neighbors, and to navigate the complex web of social and spiritual obligations. Superstition and faith guide decisions, providing both explanation and comfort. Reflection involves assessing one's alignment with these moral frameworks, understanding the consequences of actions, and seeking balance between personal needs and communal responsibility. The cyclical nature of life in the village reinforces these reflections. Birth, growth, labor, illness, and death form a continuous loop, each phase teaching lessons in resilience, skill, and adaptation. Children grow into adults, inheriting knowledge and responsibility. Adults labor and guide the young, transmitting both skills and social norms. The elderly, though often physically limited, serve as repositories of wisdom, memory, and tradition, ensuring continuity and stability. Death, ever present, is mourned, commemorated, and absorbed into the communal consciousness, reminding all of the fragility and impermanence of individual life. The sensory world of the village contributes to both legacy and reflection. The sight of fields in various stages of growth, the smell of baked bread or burning wood, and the sound of livestock, labor, or bells all reinforce memory and habit. These sensory cues are both practical and symbolic. They guide action, mark time, and anchor individuals within the communal and natural rhythms of life. Even subtle changes in the environment, an early frost, a dying tree, a shift in animal behavior, carry significance, prompting reflection on preparation, adaptation, and communal responsibility. Hardship and danger are inseparable from this reflection. Villagers constantly navigate threats, storms, disease, predation, scarcity, and social tension. Risk assessment is both practical and moral, informing decisions about labor allocation, resource distribution, and social behavior. Every choice carries consequences, and reflection on past experiences informs future action. Those who survive develop keen judgment, adaptability, and foresight, while those who fail often serve as cautionary examples for others. In this way, the village is both a physical and moral landscape, shaped by experience, observation, and reflection. The price of village life is particularly evident in labor's relentless demands. Every day is filled with tasks essential for survival: tending animals, plowing fields, harvesting crops, preparing food, mending clothing, maintaining tools, and securing shelter. Each task is physically taxing, requiring strength, endurance, and skill. Yet these activities are also socially structured. Cooperation and coordination are essential, and the failure of one individual can impact the entire community. Labor is simultaneously a means of survival, a source of identity, and a moral exercise in diligence, responsibility, and interdependence. Reflection extends to the passage of time itself. Villagers mark days, months, and seasons not through abstract measurement, but through observation, ritual, and labor. The first thaw of spring, the ripening of grain, the migration of birds, or the arrival of a festival signals action, preparation, or celebration. Time is experienced corporeally and communally. It is measured by sun, weather, harvest, and ritual rather than by clocks or calendars. Reflection involves situating oneself within these rhythms, understanding the flow of events, and preparing for the uncertainties of the future. The social and spiritual dimensions of legacy are intertwined. Acts of piety, charity, and cooperation